Subarctic. I'm Craig Martelle, and today we have Joseph Alexander coming out of the UK. So it's a little more daylight over there. How are you doing, Joseph?
I'm doing really well, actually. Yeah, actually, things are pretty good. It's been a weird couple of weeks for authors around. Well, for everyone, you know what I mean. We'll talk about this in a lot, I'm sure, but sort of having our own concerns about sales, but in sort of the context of the wider world sort of falling apart. It's sort of a weird kind of weird kind
You bet.
yeah.
How has your world changed?
Do you mean in terms of like health and living in the UK, or do you mean in terms of sales?
Just you personally.
Not particularly. I mean, you know, noted misanthrope, spends a lot of time in my house anyway, and doing that. I think a lot of writers be like, you know, if we weren't watching the news, we'd be like what's going on out there, kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, personally, family concerns. I've got a few people in my family who are particularly high risk, and I think again, everybody's, you know, got that. Yeah. So we're trying to do our best, and you know, it's funny for me. It's happens at a time where I've actually been taking a little bit of like a mental health break from work. It's been pretty intense for the last few years, and I've been actively trying to manage the amount that I'm doing. So now I'm just sort of twiddling my thumbs going, you know what, I should be doing something, and starting to get back into it. Yeah, I won't lie, you know, I'm a little bit lost. It's always easy to come on these things and be like, you know, get on these sales and you start, you know, people sort of start looking to you for answers and things like that. And actually, I think it's all right to say, you know, at the moment,
golf, man,
know what's going on. Yeah, like sort of playing it by ear and really one day at a time. But yeah, I'll stop.
Golf.
We can
keep is golf. I mean, see, this is why you have stress in your life. Because if you go play a round of golf or 3, you'll realize, hey, the day job isn't so bad.
Yeah, I like a punch bag. It's quite good. Like hitting the gym, and the local gym's just closed. I'm sort of doing quite a lot there. But yeah, I mean, golf could be interesting, I suppose. But
what a paradigm shift, huh? Today, in order to be healthy, you don't go to the gym.
Yeah, right. But and I think you've got other issues of things like, you know, what will we do? Because if I'm just going to be sitting all day in my dressing gown watching Netflix and I've got like a big bag of like chips in front of me, then, you know, managing that kind of stuff is interesting, because I'm, you know, maybe not doing other things. And it's something I do talk a lot about with writers. We sit all the time, and I mean, I've got a sitting standing desk now, so I'm doing about 20 minutes sitting, 20 minutes standing. But yeah, like, you know, how do we balance all that stuff? It's all
well, and you have to for a healthy life as a writer. You cannot sit and write 100% of your life. That's it's so important to do something else. Having pets, having a dog that you take for a walk, and things like that. Anything to get you out of the house. And yes, Elaine, I can see your name. I can see Lawrence, Erica, and everybody who did jump on, Angela, and registered with Be Live to say, hey, you can use my Facebook profile. Then you come up. So thank you. We brought Joseph on today because Joseph has turned the tables on their head in regards to spending less on ads, but building a list and maintaining an email list that buys what he has to sell. So talk to us about the initial building that list.
Yeah, I think I need to go back one little step before that, because, you know, I sort of wrote my first book on playing the guitar. I sent it off to a sort of small London music book publishing company. I thought, this is great, but you've included like 3 DVDs worth of audio with it, and it's just not financially viable to publish it. So thanks, but no thanks. So I was like, well, this is the 21st century, and I put up a kind of crappy WordPress site, and I just hosted that audio myself. Put a link to the audio in my book, and then I didn't have, you know, an email wall between it or anything like that. And I just let people get the stuff for free, and then it took me probably about a year before I went, hang on, I'm missing a trick here. And I just, you know, signed up to, I think I started off with MailChimp and just put an email wall up, and suddenly I started to build a list, and I was manually writing an email every sort of Sunday, and if I didn't have a book to launch, I would just send out some lessons or whatever was on the website. Just trying to add value you know, like we all do, to our lists, and you know, keep in touch without spamming them. You know, all the things we talk about, and then whenever I sort of, because that got really high engagement. So whenever I actually did release a book, I kind of just told them. And I sort of made that point quite a lot. It doesn't have to be this kind of hard sell, you know, thing that authors sometimes like naturally shy away from, the dirty business of actually selling our books and getting away from the pure art of writing. You know, that whole thing that people come and, you know, bore me with occasionally. But yeah, so it's just a case of letting them know, and it just grew and grew and grew. And as we, you know, sort of starts to grow a little bit more exponentially as you add more books.
You obviously love playing the guitar. So how many books do you have?
I've written personally, I think something like 38, and there's a few compilations in there and things like that. This is a bit of a rabbit hole to go down, but I ran out of things to write about. So I asked a friend if he wanted to co-write my first like death metal, heavy metal guitar book, because, you know, I can play it a bit, but it's not my thing. And he was like, yeah, cool. And by that time, I think I had about 15, 20 books, and I was sort of running out of things to write about. And so he wrote it, and I'd sort of built some branding, and, you know, obviously got the email list and knew what I was doing in terms of publishing and editing and that kind of thing. So he wrote it, I edited it, we did the front cover, we put it out and co-published, and that was the point really where we became a publishing company. And now I think we've got about 120 titles in English, which we basically co-wrote and edited with me and various different authors, some quite famous people now as well, which is great. They've all been translated now to German. Quite a lot of them are in Spanish, and quite a high proportion of those are in Portuguese as well. So I think in terms of titles, we're looking at around about 300 separate titles now.
Okay, good deal. And your main sales are your paperback, your workbook kind of size books.
Yeah, I've got one to hand actually. You can see one on the wall behind me. So they're kind of, I think, guess legal size for like A4 sort of size. That's 8.5 by 11. And yeah, I'm very lucky. Not last 2 weeks, but for the moment, you know, people buy them as paperback. I think it's just a musical thing. We love to have music on our music stands. We spend so much time.
You bet.
And, you know, while we format our books for Kindle so you can double tap an image and enlarge it so it's the size of the screen and you can read it, I think music personally is just best read on paper, and I think that people sort of tend to agree with that. So yeah, we're one of the very few publishers, or writers I should say, really, that we certainly sell, if not 50-50, maybe slightly more paperbacks than Kindles at the moment.
Well, a tactile response. I think any musician is more tactile in how they learn and how they work. For the paperbacks, do you drop ship or do you do some other method?
No, basically everything's print on demand. We have, I know most authors that would be listening would be with, say, Ingram Spark. We're with Lightning Source, which is another wing of Ingram. They sort of, we approach them as a publisher rather than a sort of indie.
And for everybody listening, Ingram Spark is for self-published authors and smaller groups. When you go up to Ingram Lightning Source, is an Ingram company, but it's for publishers. It's for larger volume and greater deal. There's a more of an expense to it, but there's a much wider reach. So you got to consider that.
40,000 places worldwide that can order and sell. And yeah, you're right. I mean, the economics of doing offset printing ourselves, warehousing and selling, we could probably make a little bit more, but the hassle and we don't want to be holding stock, and it's just
you'd have employees, man, and you'd have to buy them in like 5,000 or 10,000 book chunks. Yeah. And then when you sell out, you have to reorder. It is a pain in the ass.
It is, yeah, and I think you're right. That's a full-time job for someone. So I think there's a little bit in it, and I suppose with the amount of books that we sell, it could potentially be worthwhile. But I'm very much, certainly not lazy, but I prefer clean and simple rather than just the logistics of doing that.
So what kind of margin What kind of margin are you looking for from a paperback?
In what sense? As in Amazon POD, like,
Like
or
how much money do you plan to make off each paperback?
okay, so we sell, again, because it's nonfiction and it's tutorial stuff, methods, we can charge more probably than the average author, and that's quite important to say. But say the breakdown on that would be, we put a book on Amazon for $20. I think we make 11. If that's my book, great. If that's a book that we've published, whatever that deal is, and that deal started, we have more overheads now, but when I first started publishing people, it was like a 50-50 royalty split. But then we're sort of paying for Amazon advertising, we're doing all the other stuff. And so, like, it really depends on the royalty split with an author, but standard now was between 30 and 40% with an author, which is still, 3 times higher than anyone else in the business. And we're lucky.
That's right. Paperback out in the trad pub world, the author may see $1 a copy on a hardback that sells for $25.
That's basically it. I mean, I want to just jump in there because, like, trad publishers do get a hard time, right? But I think people are like, trad, they're ripping us off. But actually, when you do look at the economics of that, which we do, and like I said, most of what we do is print on demand, either Amazon or Ingram. But we do some offset stuff, and we're distributed by like Hal Leonard in the UK and then music companies like that. But you've got to look at it like this: if we put a book on, say, for $10, easy numbers, the music shop needs to make 40%. The distributor needs to make 20%. So there's $4 left. And then the publishing company needs to make something because they paid all these editors, covers it. And actually, that's why. And it's not great. It's still not a lot of money, but there is a reason for it. So this kind of evil publishing thing is kind of a little bit of a misnomer. But yeah.
But from an author's perspective,
they would put food on the table. It's good.
Now they have a wider reach, but there's so much overhead. The publishers, because they're not making $24 a copy, and that's what you were talking about. They're making almost as much as the author is, because there's so many cuts of that pie in between the author, and it sells it at wholesale. And now the retailer, they take their cut, so the wholesale price is probably 50% off, or less. So even if they can print 10,000 copies of a book, they can sell it for $20 each. It costs them only $1, even less, to print it because they did a volume buy. Then you look at $9 left is all, and have that $9. Okay, they get this cut, the bookstore gets X cut, and then all of a sudden, you're lucky to have $1 left.
Yeah, exactly, and it's just the economics of the industry. So it's an interesting one, and also one thing, like a very good friend of mine, Barry Hutchinson. He tells that story about how he got great news from his publisher, and like we're in Asda, which is like Walmart here, and I think he sold like 10,000 books, and he got like £220, like $300 or something. But in any author's contract, there's normally a clause that says something like, if we have to drop our royalty rates or our percentages or increase them, whatever, to get it into a supermarket, that comes out of the author's share, and which is kind of, that sucks, right? But
everybody should share the pain,
Yeah, totally. But again, there are some people that I'm very very good friends with who that model is working very well for, and there's great visibility if you're in Tesco or Walmart and things like that. So actually building your brand as an author, it's certainly something to consider.
But not if you're counting on that to put food on the table. It makes it kind of slim pickings. So yes, I mean, that's put you in a good spot. Your email list, you email them every Saturday still?
Yeah, we tend to do sort of two emails a week at the moment. That's sort of automated. Might even be one. I think it's, you're right, it's one. I think Friday evening. So we just set it up now. You do that.
It's autopilot.
Yeah, right. So it's really just one email a week, and as much as I say, for most kind of like say fiction novelists who aren't releasing as many books, like we release a book every 2 weeks, not including translations. A lot of that email contact with your audience, it's fine to say, this is what we're up to, this is what we're doing, you know, and a little sneak peek of the next book, and not sort of selling as much, and just building that relationship, which we do as well.
Yeah.
For us, you know, like maybe that's a different question. We'll get into it, but actually we send emails with books and information related to what we know they're already interested in too. So like our open rate's about 50%, which is like.
Do you include audio, like links to some audio, like, hey, here's a new riff or something?
No, not really. Like we kind of we sort of probably a little bit too heavy, but we sort of soft sell every week kind of thing. We started off doing lessons, and that was great, but actually we just found it for us, and that's a really big caveat. For us, please, you know, like don't say what we're doing is what everybody else should be doing. But yeah, soft sales email. This is what we've got out, and this is what we think you might be interested in, is working for us.
Okay. How have you built your list? Where did you go out and find those subscribers?
Okay, so every single subscriber on my list, which is just about 75,000 at the moment, has bought a book from us, and they have signed up. And the reason that I've been able to build that list, SidePoint sold north of 600,000 guitar books, right? Or, you know, drums and bass, all that books. We've got 75,000 on our mailing list, so we're kind of addressing that. I mean, you can't sign up twice, but, you know, like 10%. That doesn't seem right, but so what we're very lucky to be able to offer, and what most non-fiction authors are able to offer, is something that's really kind of integral to the book, that really enhances the value of that book. So we do music books, right? And we've got 150 exercises or examples or bits of music in there. We all record those, you know, along with backing tracks and all that kind of thing, and we include all of those things in an audio download. It's like a zip file, download it to the computer, open it up, stick it in iTunes or whatever, and then it's on all their devices. It's like the modern day equivalent of, you know, including a CD with a book. So to do that, you can go to the site. If anybody wants to check this, it's like fundamental-changes.com, and you can see it's just, you know, get the audio in the top right-hand corner, really, you know, really clear call to action. And go on there, you pick your instrument, you fill in the form, we get your name, we get your email address, and we also we know we've got tagging and clever little things going on in the background. An active campaign that's going to tag you with your genre, so we know whether you're into blues or rock or jazz or death metal. And that means that when we're sending out, we've got about 4 or 5 different automations. So, you know, death metal people go to the rock one, and jazz people go. So we're not sending, you know, like rage music to people who just want to play, like, you know, chord melody, bass guitar.
So how many different parsing do you have? Different?
I think 5, 4 or 5. So there'd be rock, jazz, blues, kind of beginner, acoustic-y kind of thing, and something else I can't remember right now.
Death metal, Norwegian death metal.
Yeah, right. It's all that. I think we've got like 1 or 3 metal books in the compilation.
Good deal. Good deal.
Yeah, we've got like a country thing as well. Country's quite big.
Okay, nice. Let's talk translations.
Yeah.
You've started your own company and now are fanning out. Yeah.
So what we realized, and, you know, and Joe Penn doing this as well, she's doing it really well, is that after I always feel very careful about saying things like this, but I've got a lot of German friends, and they're like, Germans in particular really love to read things in German. I think we all, of course, love to read things in our own language, but there's something there where if it's not in German, sometimes it might not exist, as it were. And I'm choosing my words carefully because I have it on good authority, shall we say. So it sort of occurred to me that, well, you know, our book's about, you know, 20,000 words, around that. It's not going to be too much of a big deal to try and get those translated. And we did, and a couple of years ago I had a few translated, and they've been ticking over for ages. And then it was a bit of a sort of bit of a project last year. I think started 6 months ago. So right, we're going to get everything done. So I hired a team of translators, got them, you know, freelance, set them up with DeepL, which you might have heard of as a really, really clever AI translation tool. So, of course, there's nuanced language of music that it doesn't get. And it's not great with like genders, it's got masculine and feminine. And that. So it ended up with it being non-fiction, that DeepL was doing about 60 to 65% of the word, and then we were really kind of paying more editor type rates. This doesn't work with fiction, by the way, for various reasons we can go into later. So then the thing about DeepL is you can upload a Word document, and it will, and 5 minutes or 2 minutes later, download a German document. That goes to the translator. They edit it, and I've got, my front cover layout team. I've got somebody doing the front cover translations and all that kind of thing. And really, I think we did about 40 or 50 books in like a few months. Really, it was quite fast that we managed to do that. And coming to the end of that project now, and I realized actually there's a Germany's really picking up. Like our sales in Germany have been like crazy good with German language titles. So we've been really investing in that, and of course AMS has come online for Amazon Germany, so we can back these book releases up as well with that, and it's been pretty big. And thought, well, Mark Dawson is doing a load of German translation, and I thought, well, why not make that team available? And if they have experience with fiction and things like that, why not make that team available to indie authors at a sort of low rate? Of course, we're making a tiny little margin, where the translators are getting work, and we're actually kind of putting it at a price point where it's sort of affordable for indies to get, their potentially 60,000 word book translated, but keep their rights, not having to, get into licensing and all that kind of thing, and use the skills that they've built up as indie authors to get their own books there and own their own intellectual property. So that's really what we're doing at the moment.
So you're talking a 50, 60,000 word book is about $3,000?
No, it's a bit more than that. It's 6.5 pence per word, so it's about £3,900. But that's like keeping.
Okay, so about $5,000, somewhere thereabouts.
Like
£3,900. Okay.
Yeah, right. So just sort of. At the moment, our issues like capacity, like we're full, and we've got so many inquiries coming in. Like people seem happy. We seem to be doing a good job, and it's hopefully something that's going to be good for the community as well. It is a business, of course, but it's something that we're trying to do. So that's translatebooks.com if anybody wants to check that out. But I'm not here to do a hard sell, but it's something that exists, and it seems to be going well for people.
But options, and that is the German market is exploding. Mark Dawson, Mike Landerly are both not taking advantage, but they're exploring that market because the readers want material.
Capitalizing, there's a huge market there, millions and millions of people, technically like quick on the uptake, like sort of early adopters, I think is the phrase that I'm looking for there. And absolutely, and I think really all authors should be doing that. Certainly if you're doing well and you've got a catalogue of books that is selling, that is good, if you're getting royalties from that you're not immediately spending on other things, then my money would say that that's probably one of the biggest investments that authors could make right now. As a musician, as a writer, I'm very keen on the idea that we keep our intellectual property. That's what we have. Like if if that was sort of, if somebody came in and said, right, we want to kind of do this in Mongolia, I'm like, cool, like take license the rights to that. I'm not going to do that. I don't have any distribution network there. It's going to be very hard for me to reach it. Yeah. But German, French, Spanish, Portuguese, particularly Spanish, you know what I mean? It's the second language in America, right? So, it's, I think it's such an easy way to multiply the amount of intellectual property that you've got. I mean, like I say, we've got 120 books do those in another 3 languages, we're looking at having 480 books, you know, and that's even if they sell 1 a day and we're making, you know, £3-4, like $11 or whatever, you know, depending on the royalty split, as you know, like that's huge. That's absolutely huge, and it's really taking off. It's going to be, you know, we'll see what happens over the next few months with the state of the world, but a massive investment that everybody should be considering if they're comfortable with what they're doing in English. This isn't something new writers should be thinking about. This is not like a newbie kind of priority, but if you've got that catalog, if it's selling, like there's a huge market there to be had, and there aren't that many people doing it yet.
Yeah. Okay, what about the Spanish market? How is that?
Good. Yeah, I mean, that would be the next language I would go for.
Okay.
With the Portuguese stuff, the reason that we're doing Portuguese is because we were specifically contacted by a shop in Sao Paulo, and they were like, we want your books, we want them in Portuguese, we will order enough of them when you start out to pay for your translation costs. I'm like, brilliant. Like, you know, zero-sum game there. That's absolutely perfect. No risk. Yeah, we can do that. Cool. So that's Portuguese. And as Amazon expand, I think, you know, they're looking at Brazil and places like that. So I think we'd be ahead of the game going in there, but it's not a massive revenue source other than what we're selling kind of offset to that shop. Back to Spanish. Yeah, good. We've had some Spanish titles out there. They took over. Do you know what I mean? Again, it's that sort of, let's not have all our eggs in the English basket, you know. And it was a bit of an experiment to start off with, but you know, I think we've got, I'm not sure, 15 books in Spanish. We're probably making a few $100s a week, but when, like, you know, we pay fairly, something like, I believe in paying people, but when people are in, say, Argentina or Central America, and I think Ecuador or somewhere as well, that we can pay them a really good rate, which is not expensive for us, which is a huge amount of money for them and stuff. It wasn't a massive investment up front, so I'm like, well, I've got all of my life really to pay off the rest, you know, to
And that, do you do the initial translation through AI for Spanish? No. Okay, it's all.
No, because it wasn't around then. I think this was a few years ago. If I was to do it now, I would. Yeah, absolutely, because it works really well for nonfiction. Yeah, it would be the same thing. Get that done by the AI, and then get it to Spanish translators. And the speed of doing that is a lot quicker as well. Like, you can get to market much more quickly. I do the same thing, you know, get my translators from Upwork or wherever, and the difficulty for me is really they've got to be able to play guitar and be a musician as well as being a good translator. So it's a bit of a needle in a haystack, but when we find them, they are brilliant, and you know, we pay them well, and they do a great job. So it's been more about what our capacity has been about this year, and what our goals as a company, as a publishing company, have been, and the German stuff was so intense. I'm actually just kind of taking a little break from that for a while, but you know, it wasn't difficult. It was just a lot of it.
Well, you don't want to flood the market. You were talking earlier about having 10 titles ready to put into the German market, but what is your frequency of dropping titles?
I don't have enough track record to say this is definitively what you should be doing. There's certainly an argument for, well, we can drip feed these, and if I've got 10 titles, why am I not rapid releasing every 2 weeks or every month or something like that? But I mean, realistically, if we've got 120 titles and we're doing batches of about 10 at a time, then we're launching a batch of about 10 at a time. But at the moment, while Amazon adverts are not very competitive in Spanish, or German, you know, we're talking off track record, things that we've actually done in German, then it makes sense to publish that batch at that time. So I couldn't give you an A/B control fair test on that, but I don't think I would drop 120 books at once. I mean, I just couldn't handle that amount of work, really. Even with all my absolutely brilliant team around me, because we do proper layout as well. So each one of those books has got, apart from the translation, that's going to go into InDesign. It's going to be formatted for Kindle. We need front covers. We need to have front covers proofread. We need all that checking, and then even uploading those books, that's like a day. And then we're doing that on Kindle. We're doing that on Ingram. We're doing that for KDP print on demand, and it's for detention 20, it'd take ages. It'd be really stressful. So and translators won't be able to cope with it. So it's just
How do you manage your German ads?
We've got the Amazon Advantage ads, so that's all in there. So really, they're pretty easy. I've been sort of fairly open about this. I always should I be telling everybody this? But for us, because it's non-fiction, automated ads work really, really well. It's really difficult for me to answer questions when people come up to me at a conference. They're like, right, I need to advertise my whatever kind of fiction novels, and it's really nuanced and niche. I'm like, sorry, I don't know. But for non-fiction,
do you do them in German?
We don't write anything on them. They're just the automated ads. So it's just sort of the ones that pop up by the Autobots and in the.
Okay. You're doing the no blurb ads. Okay.
Blurb. Yeah, I think we've got that many titles at the moment that this could be quite an interesting chat as well about branding. That you see one of our books, it's one of our books, and that sort of weight on the shelves, it's just suddenly got this real authenticity. Nobody's looking at that going, oh, that's a self-published book, because it's like, it's like Colgate or something like that. You just recognize it. And even if one book's not got like loads of reviews yet, you'll see it next to a book that looks similar and templated the same, that's got loads of reviews. So the cross-selling thing is quite, is powerful. And I'm sure every single person that sits there talking to you says, you want to promote your book, write another book, and build that brand. It's so important.
Way good. Is there anything else you want to talk about? I mean, I hit a couple of the high points, and hopefully we've got food for thought for the folks listening in. Let me see if we got any questions.
Yeah, sure.
Would you recommend recording an audiobook first before venturing into the translation world?
Yeah. So at the moment, this is the issue. I did an audiobook for Self-Published Millionaire, which does quite well, and the paperback does quite well too. For audiobooks, I've not got into them yet for the guitar books, and the reason is all of our books contain notated examples. Now, of course, I could put together a PDF with just example 1A notation, example 1B notation, include that as a download. I don't know yet, and I should probably start experimenting with the stuff and investing a little bit, whether an audio book of a guitar manual where you're going to have to go and have the PDF on the screen anyway. It's not like something you can listen to in your car.
I don't see it for what you do. I don't see it.
I don't see it either. I'd happily give it a try. So I think in answer to that question, yeah, this is a guess, and I don't know. But from what I'm seeing from my friends who have all of these things, I would certainly say an audiobook in English is probably a higher priority than a translation. But I don't know, and I wouldn't necessarily, I wouldn't necessarily on that.
At last year's London Book Fair, one of the companies that was doing translations said, we won't even talk to you unless you have 10,000 sales in English. Right. So you've got to show some demonstrated that the book can get traction, as opposed to, hey, I'm willing to pay for the translation, but I haven't sold any copies yet. Can we do German? No, you need to sell it in your native country at first and show that you can.
Isn't it wonderful to be an indie author where we can invest our money into doing our own translations and not have to worry about people like that?
Yeah, we do what we can do, but yeah, make sure you can sell the book first, and
Mhm.
make sure that you can afford that audiobook and translation. Just another market, another revenue stream, because it
Yeah.
is completely new IP from a relative sense, because it's not so. If you take your English book wide, you can still have your German book in KU
Mhm.
or vice versa,
Yeah, absolutely.
because it's
Absolutely.
different IP.
And that could be a great way to build up a specifically German audience for a while.
Yeah,
It's something I'm thinking about, but yeah, like I could put all these German books in KU, build up that mailing list by people, downloading our audio, and then we've got a really nice segment, and that's, I mean, all so email service providers can do this now. Like if I want to search out all the German people, I can just click filter,
yeah,
and if I want to launch a book in German, I've got translators on hand that can write that launch email, translate that launch email for me. I can send it to just German people. But yeah, like it's certainly a marketing idea that I'd considered. I've not really done it yet, and things are selling. I only really use KU for a couple of titles. I think again there are some nice advantages of being on fiction. I think people generally are happy to pay for that kind of content. But we are my books that are in KU are definitely more the lead magnet-y kind of books. I like to think they're good books, but they're definitely
yeah.
a little bit more clickbaity.
Here's an idea for you: an audiobook exclusive on guitar playing to entice people to take up guitar playing.
Yeah, it's a really good idea. Like why you should play guitar.
Yeah, and then have plenty of riffs included as part of the audio part
Yeah,
where
definitely.
you play it. Oh man, because who doesn't want to listen to that, and why they should play the guitar? My wife has a very nice guitar in the back in her back office that she has played, just dabbled a little bit.
Yeah.
She never collected her lessons, and so I've got an acousto coming, or whatever it is, to show you how to place your fingers.
Cool. I can send you some books, man. Like, drop me an email and get you some stuff like
And
that.
next time I see you, man, I'll hold you to that.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's interesting as well with the sort of the world that we're living in for the past few weeks, that our sales are definitely taking a hit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping at the moment. This is the selfish side of me. I hope everybody gets better and all goes back to normal. Right, that's the big thing. I'm hoping that at the moment everyone's sort of panicking and they're not focused on learning guitar or the sort of the luxuries of life, because people are losing their jobs. No, like people aren't working. They're not confident where the next paycheck is coming in, and for what they're worth, not a big fan of our government over here at the moment, but they do seem to be protecting jobs. They do seem to be protecting all this sort of stuff. So as those worries kind of calm down a little bit, and people might be spending more time in isolation, I'm sort of hoping that actually, people are going to pick up their guitar, or they are going to start reading and things. And
Yeah.
I think, you look at the Facebook page for 20 books, and some people are going, like it's died, and some people are going, you know what, Kate, like page reads are way up. So it's swings and roundabouts, and there's going to be no certainties for a long time for authors. I think just have to accept that.
Well, US and UK both. Amazon is offering 2 months free KU. I have been pushing that hard with readers, as well as, oh, by the way, all my books are available in KU, so you can read them all for free. So $10, and you have unlimited entertainment, as much as you're willing to read. And with the guitar, oh my God, hey, just put your Kindle. It's not best, if the world recovers, you can buy the paperbacks later. But here you go. You invest nothing, and you can learn to play guitar and make the most of your self isolation. I mean, there's so many different things that marketing campaigns and ways to address this to help people get through, so they don't go stir crazy or start become axe murderers and kill their whole family. So, I mean, you're helping. You're doing your bit if you're giving them a distraction.
Yeah, I'd hope so. No, I'm a little bit loath to kind of try and capitalize on that, but I think there really is a sort of a mental health benefit to people if they can, do something. Like I'm terrible at piano, but I've been sort of like trying a little bit of that recently. But like I say, life's not that much different for me anyway. I'm just like walking my dogs and writing and things, and that's pretty
good
low.
deal.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate having you on, Joseph. I mean, it was a good talk. You covered a lot of stuff, and so hopefully our folks can get something from it. We'll cut this to YouTube a little bit later. And is it best to learn an acoustic guitar with nylon strings or metal strings?
Well, if it's an acoustic, if you're just starting out, I love this. This has gone into like guitar chat. I'll be here for hours now. If you're just starting out, invest a little bit in your guitar. If you want to play electric guitar, get an electric guitar, because there's this kind of weird kind of perception that, oh, I'm just starting out, I need to get an acoustic guitar and then graduate to electric. Like, electric guitar is so much easier to learn on. The strings are lighter, they're close together. The worst thing when I used to teach a lot of guitar, and people would rock up with this beaten up like steel string guitar from a charity shop, and the strings are like that far above the fretboard and they're like bleeding as they're trying to play their first chords. It's like, you know what, just even go and spend £100 on like a low end like Yamaha is infinitely better than this. So just electric guitar. If you're going to play electric guitar, if you're going to play acoustic guitar, get an all right one and just sort of suck it up. You'll have sore fingers for a while. Take breaks.
That's right. That's right. Treat yourself well. You don't have to spend a whole lot of money to get a playable electric guitar with a little amp that comes with it.
Yeah, I mean, like, everything's kind of made on like machines these days. It's actually really difficult to make a bad guitar now. The sort of technology. £100 Squire Strat that would be fine for you.
Good to go. Good to go. Well, thank you very much, Joseph. Appreciate it, and thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it. Have a good day, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Tomorrow we have Todd McCaffrey talking about the history of science fiction and also serials, publishing serials once a month, 30,000 word books as a collaboration, and how that's going and how they're exploiting that. And then on Tuesday, we have Barry Hutchison coming to you live from the Scottish Highlands to talk about Scottish crime thrillers and anything that jumps to our minds. All right, you guys have a good one, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.